Good morning, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and namaste. My name is Sreekanth Moni, Principal of Systematic and Strategic Innovation at Innomantra. I would like to welcome all of you to the webinar series on innovation, the CXO Forum on Systematic Innovation Management. Today, we have the fourth webinar in this series. This webinar series is a joint initiative of Innomantra and Amplify to introduce and share various aspects of innovation. This forum is designed to bring together leading minds from industry, academia, and government agencies globally to strengthen innovation methods and reinvent organizations for growth and sustainability. This series will introduce and provide a roadmap based on the 8 innovation management principles outlined in the recently established series of international standards, ISO 56000. During the past 15 years, innovation management experts from 50 countries have codified the principles of successful innovation initiatives. The result is a comprehensive framework for systematic innovation management aligned with ISO's management system structures, which are adaptable to any organization's innovation needs and requirements. This forum will explore a common understanding of best practices for innovation management, aligning with ISO 56000 Innovation Management System. Also provides an opportunity to interact with other leading innovators and develop actionable insights to drive the innovation process. This series will also bring out the ISO's principle of innovation management to help you assess where you stand as an organization in innovation and thus plan for internal projects to grow within your organization. The 8 principles based on ISO 56000 standards will help explore the critical elements of an innovation management system. The community support for this webinar series is provided by the Indian Society for Quality on the theme Enabling Innovation Success over and over again. Before we get started, I would like to introduce Innomantra and Amplify organizations. Innomantra is a leading digital innovation and intellectual property management consulting and services firm headquartered in Bengaluru, India. It works with organizations to design and achieve their digital strategy from idea to implementation. Its signature threefold approach to the innovation that looks at the overall business strategy, people, and functional systems in a digital ecosystem is globally recognized. Innomantra has a wide range of 100+ clients, ranging from small to medium businesses to Fortune Global 500 organizations. I'm very happy and delighted to make an announcement. The July-August 2023 edition of the Harvard Business Review features on the cover an article titled, "How Generative AI Can Augment Human Creativity." This article is co-authored by the Innomantra team, Dr. Tojin Thomas Epen and Mr. Lokesh Venkataswamy, along with Dr. Daniel J. Finkstart and Mr. Josh Falk. This article actually unfolds the intersection of generative artificial intelligence and human intelligence to think beyond. We hope this insightful feature article captures the interest of HBR readers as an inspiration for innovation. Amplify is a leading consulting and training company headquartered in Stockholm, Sweden. Amplify is rooted in the strong Scandinavian innovation culture, where innovation is practiced and researched at the forefront. Amplify has worked with multinational clients and contributed to innovation efforts all over the world for over 20 years. This hands-on experience from innovation projects has contributed to gain deep knowledge to come up with strategic perspectives of innovation. Today's webinar agenda includes a variety of speakers, Sri Prakash Gadhar, Sri Giridhar Rajan, Mr. Gunnar Storfeldt, and Dr. Magnus Karlsson. We'll plan for a short Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Please do post your questions on the chat window. First, I would like to introduce Sri Prakash Gadhar. He's the Chief Operating Officer at ACE Designers Limited. He has more than 3 decades of experience, most of it at Toyota Kirloskar Auto Parts and the manufacturing industry. A futuristic thinker and a thought leader, Sri Prakash Gadhar has keen interest in cutting-edge technologies, innovations in manufacturing, machine tools, IoT, AI, and machine learning. We are delighted to have Sri Prakash Gadhar to address us today. I would now like to invite Sri Prakash to share his thoughts and insights on the topic of innovation while setting the strategic direction for growth. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everybody. Thank you to Innomantra, thank you to Amplify, and thank you to Sreekanth for that wonderful introduction of me. And I think before we started this session, we had a brief discussion that I've become a poster boy, and thanks for that. First is you have made me a poster, and then also a boy. I am just 52 years old. If you can call me a boy, it's fine. It's a wonderful compliment for me. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And we are really honored, basically, by the team of Innomantra and Amplify for inviting and also a part of this session, and more so as a chief guest. I'm not very sure whether I'll be a chief guest, but I'm going to be a chief student of this session because I'm also a continuous learner. Having said that, probably I would like to share my thoughts using the PPT, but I would like to also introduce my colleague, Mr. Giridhar Rajan.
Yes, I'll go ahead.
You can do that.
Mr. Prakash. Yes.
Yeah.
So along with Mr. Prakash, we'll also have Mr. Giridhar Rajan, who's an innovation leader and sustainability champion, also from ACE Designers Limited. Sri Giridhar Rajan comes with around 18 years of experience in managing technology, business, people, and innovation, I should say. Has worked in organizations like Honeywell, GE, and has extensive knowledge on the innovation space. At ACE Designers Limited, he's responsible for diversifying the business and driving new sources of revenue through innovation, new technology development, and partnership. So we'd like to thank you, both of you, for this providing this particular part of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think thanks a lot. So without taking much time, I would like to keep my experience sharing to maximum. Myself and Giridhar will spend about 20 minutes from now. Let me start sharing my screen. Hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Can anybody confirm?
Yes, we can. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So once again, thanks a lot. I was also a little puzzled when I was given this topic about what should I speak. And innovation, although it sounds very, little confusing with the invention. So I've been also trying to understand the difference between invention and innovation, and try to use the chat GPT for that as well. But fundamentally, I think innovation is something, discovering something totally new, and innovation is something which you improve upon the knowledge which is already available. This is what I could see in a simplified way, the explanation. And my contents of explanation will be briefly these 4. Thereafter, Mr. Giridhar will explain about innovation at ACE Designers Limited. Primarily, I'll focus on the brief history of the organization, which I represent, the vision, mission of ACE Designers. And little bit, I'm a frequent reader of a lot of books, and I have read a book on innovation. There's a very famous book called Jugaad. It's a Hindi word, frugal innovation. And third one, I would like to focus on innovation in business organization context. And fourth one, and various principles and types of innovation and strategic directions. About ACE designers, basically, I'm very proud to say that we have our founding fathers, Mr. Shirgurkar, Mr. Machado, Mr. Late A.V. Sathe. Actually, they are the ones who pioneered this organization 42 years back, when even a CNC machine was I would say nobody could even imagine a CNC machine. That point of time, these three gentlemen from a Central Manufacturing Technology Institute in Bangalore, they were the engineers working there. They came out and ventured into designing. And at that point of time, they did not have idea about what they will be after 40 years. And what we see now as designer is basically because of their strong foundation and the drive for innovation, challenging, impossible. These three gentlemen actually laid the foundation of ACE designers. Basically, ACE designer has ACE designer is the largest and the highest level of manufacturers of machine tools in India. We have about 33% market share. We manufacture machines which actually do a machining of dia 3 mm to about almost about, you can say about 1000 mm diameter and length about 3 meters. That's the range which we produce. You can see smallest to the biggest machines. And we have a very, very dedicated center, design and innovation center, focusing on developing new products. And this organization has grown over a period of last 40 years, and now we call it as the power of 8. It all started in a garage by the three engineers whom you see on top. And now it has become almost 8 companies. We are diversified into various products. One such company which I can proudly say is Amaze, which is basically additive manufacturing ACE. They have actually started building the machines of additive manufacturing. And when I say this entire slide, if I want to summarize, this is actually driven by values and passion. The founding fathers actually firmly believed in true innovation culture, and that's the reason why we are having such a large base in India. And this is our vision, purpose, vision, and mission. I don't want to get into details, but I would like to highlight the areas which is shown here. You see the arrow marks: impact manufacturing, enrich lives sustainably. Then we have focusing on vibrant, inspired people. And the third, in the mission 2026, you will see fueled by innovation. So we are very, very focused. Of course, the bottom one is in the local language to make sure that everybody understands. But we are very keen to look at innovation as a tool for business expansion as well as growth. And it's very, very ably supported by our managing director. He says, let's embrace change, become truly global Indian machine tool company in the years to come. Now, I just want to take a few slides to the viewers that this word called jugaad. Jugaad is a Hindi word, is a colloquial Indian Indo-Aryan languages or Indian language Hindi, which refers to a non-conventional frugal innovation. And I love this book by the three gentlemen, Navi, Razab, Jaideep, and Simon. This was about quite a long back. It was more than, I read this book about 5 years back, frankly. And to summarize it, I think these are Indian models of innovation of the people, by the people, and for the people. If you see the contents of this, and I see some 6 bullet points from this. Basically, seek opportunity in diversity or challenges, I would say. Do more with a less, you will find examples. Think and act flexibly. Keep it simple. Include the margin and follow your heart. Having said that, this is a very frugal innovation where it was just meeting the requirement at that point of time, what is required. But it's important to note that Jugaad should not replace a structured approach to innovation. Rather than it should complement it, I feel. So this could be a kind of a trigger for you to actually start standardizing it as we go forward. Having said that, India stands very low on the global innovation index, which means there's a plenty of challenges and opportunities to innovate in India. That's the kind of diversity we have in India. The diverse culture, diverse type of people, diverse requirements, diverse needs of people, and diversified challenges. I think there is a plenty of scope for to innovate in Indian context. And these are some of the examples of top 5. When you look at how a frugal innovation looks like, you see that number 1 is a Chotu pool. It's a portable and low-cost refrigerator design to cater to the needs of villages, remote villages. Jaipur fruit, I think it's very well known throughout the world as a prosthetic limb developed by Dr. P.K. Sethi in Jaipur. I think many people from around the world, they come here. And Nano Ganesh is a device that allows farmers to remotely control irrigation pumps using mobile phones. And of course, this is Saral Designs. This is a social enterprise that has commercialized a low-cost automated machine for manufacturing sanitary napkins. And there is a actually Hindi movie out of it, Padman. Probably some of you know about it. But those beyond India, I think it's one of the movie which is taken out from the social context. Third one is the Dabawala is an excellent business model, I would say. These are the people who actually carry lunch from remote areas of Mumbai and deliver it to the person working anywhere in Mumbai. And in the right time, without any quality defects. So these are some of the things which you'll find innovations happening, I think, at a bottom level. And these are all kind of a motivators for all of us to look at it as, where does actually innovation start? Does it start at the bottom or does it really start at the top? Now, let me just take you back to the innovation in the business organization context. I think we all know that in a business organization context, innovation is not that much looked at in a manufacturing because people look at this innovation as a continuous improvement process model, which is both incremental as well as breakthrough. Now, few of the things which I have experienced in the manufacturing field is basically the word sustainable and incremental improvements, the very famous word Kaizen. It's mostly widely used in organization for total employee involvement. Probably this is one example I'm just showing you, but it may not be only this. It could be QCC, it could be suggestion schemes. All is basically kind of a bottom-up approach where the people who are affected are involved in suggesting the solutions and working on it to drive improvement culture. But however, I think I just put a dotted line because I don't know where the shift really happens. And when you look at the disruptions or the breakthrough tools are basically design thinking, TRIZ, Scamper, and thinking hats. I think I have come across these two, but the other two I'm not not used it much. But I think these are all fundamentally comes from what I would say as what is the customer is really having a difficulty. That means you have to look at empathizing, trying to understand the customer's significant needs. And at the bottom, I'm trying to show a very business guru, Dr. Eli Goldratt. He actually has formalized the thinking process tools to get a breakthrough solutions. And I think it's what you see here is basically a man, is like a hat. He doesn't have eyes or nose or this thing. It's like a blind man, basically, which means that assumptions actually blind you from looking at the obvious things. So that's why Dr. Goldratt says we must ask why with the innocence of a child. Otherwise, the most vulnerable assumptions, those that we unquestionably accept as a fact of life, will not surface. So I think, to summarize it, there are plenty of tools where we can actually get into a breakthrough and solutions, and probably that can lead to innovation as well. And this is my favorite thing, basically. In a traditional approach, probably when you look at trying to solve a problem, we look at individual, breaking down a problem and evaluating each individual elements and trying to solve each one of them. But in a systems approach, basically, it's completely different. It's called synthesis process, looking at interconnections between causes to understand a big picture. And I would like the users to actually click onto this YouTube link of Dr. Russell Ackoff. He's a systems thinker, American person who actually gave a lot of insights into the system thinking. Why I like this is basically, we often say that we have to break through, we have to do a lot of innovation, but generally we tend to get into a traditional approach of looking at problems and individual elements and trying to solve this. But I think Dr. Russell Ackoff's views on systems thinking actually opened my eyes, and I said that every organization also has to be looked at as an interconnected one, not as in silos. So while the analysis and the synthesis differences are shown here, but I would like to look at this as a systems approach is a key for achieving any breakthrough innovation. And I feel probably, I mean, I'm since a student of ISO 56000, I would like to look at that how much of this is actually really incorporated into the ISO 56000. Now, the principal types of innovation and strategic directions, I think the experts are there, but however, I would like to just understand this from a point of view that the 8 principles of innovation management are really interconnected. There are inherent interconnections, and probably where to start is a challenge for any organization. So few of the things I've shown here, there are a lot of interconnections which probably the experts can look at it. But I could definitely take out few examples from here. Realization of the value in case of ACE designers as an import substitute, which was thought of 40 years back, these machines. Future focused leaders, they reinvested in people, process, and products, our founding directors. Strategic direction of purpose, vision, and mission. All these things I feel already are right now part of ACE designers, but I would definitely love to understand how it can be further systemized. And of course, just to give you a brief about the types of innovation, definitely you have product and process, which is more on the operational side. The business innovation, and I recommend this book called Blue Ocean Strategy. And you all know that. I think probably most of the companies, most of the time we are almost in a red ocean. Even though we get into a blue ocean, and there is very hardly any time when the competitor catches up and you still get into red ocean. So innovation has to be a continuous. Innovation is a mantra to actually survive and grow. At bottom, I have just shown a graph, which is, of course, the product life cycle. Everybody knows introduction, growth, maturity, and decline stage. But I just wanted to look at where does the innovation fits in this entire product life cycle. I feel the level of innovation will be very high in the introduction stage or prior to introduction, and it starts declining, and you need to do something completely different to actually keep this graph straight line rather than declining. So could be, I mean, ISO 56000 could definitely touch upon this. And to conclude, I would say, as a strategic direction, the culture has to be there. And we say that the culture aids strategy for breakfast. It has to create a business value. Of course, we see here the fun stuff and the hard stuff. We say that, okay, you can tolerate failure, but you cannot tolerate incompetency. That means you need to develop people for innovation mind. Experimentation is required, but you need to have a discipline. Definitely, you need to be very, very candid when you're doing this. Collaboration and individual accountability has to be looked at. A flat hierarchy, yes, true, but you need a strong leadership to drive and make a change. And communication and purpose and the leadership, I think, is a foundation for the culture of innovation. Lastly, I would like to end my own explanation, learn from what to focus, but most importantly, what not to focus. And I would link this innovation to a very quote unquote value is created by removing a significant limitation for the customer in a way that was not possible before, and to the extent that no significant competitor can deliver. This is Dr. Eli Goldratt. And I think those who have embraced this, I think, have been growing. Blue Ocean strategy is one thing which has really, opened my eyes that this is the value which is value created by many companies who have been growing 15 to 20% CAGR. There are plenty of examples to look for. And we are also motivated by those examples, and we are trying our best. And probably innovation and growth at Ace Designer, more to explain how we are doing, I think I hand it over to Mr. Giridhar.
Thanks, Prakash, for the wonderful presentation. I will share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So let me talk about innovation and growth at ACE Designers. So the agenda here is that we'll showcase the ideation space that we created. How do we drive innovation? How we hire for innovation? Then the last three are generating ideas, selecting ideas, and managing those ideas. So let me showcase first, the innovation space that we have created. I think this is a critical piece where there is an environment that we have created where innovation is possible. There is free flow of thoughts. It's a unique and different kind of office where when you enter this place, you feel like innovating. So it's built on three ideologies. We took firstly, about 6 months to convince ourselves that we need a space like this, and 8 months after that to build the space like this. So it's built on three ideologies. Firstly, pride. The office in front of you has a lot of sustainable elements, and which brings in the pride for anybody who works here. There is employee centricity in this office. Apart from work, there is space for recreation, relaxing, and the culture in this office is totally different. And also the office is built for functionality. It's built in such a way that there is a space, dedicated space where people can sit together and ideate. And the whole infrastructure is built for the functionality, which in this case is innovation. So with this, let me move forward to, how do we, just give me a moment, 1 second.
We can see your screen, Giridhar. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to remove the top panel. That's what I'm trying. Just
no problem. I think it's okay. You can go ahead.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So how do we drive innovation? Firstly, the important thing before we even start innovating is that there needs to be a certain business metrics, and those business metrics need to be used for deriving the individual goals of people from whom we expect innovation, or at least the dedicated teams which are doing meant to do innovation day in and day out. Okay. And once those goals are defined, the goals drive behavior. It's a popular belief that for innovation, a goal cannot be defined. But a goal has to be defined because there is a certain direction in which the business wants to go, and that will derive the goal, right? So metrics derives goals, goals drive behavior, and behavior exhibited by a bunch of people every day is called the culture. So innovation culture can be built in any organization. Depending on the size of the organization, it could take 2 to 4 years to build. So let me touch upon what I mean by business metrics here. So a metrics is very high level, like make 200 crores in 5 years, or improve the margins by 10 crores in 3 years, or have at least one inorganic growth opportunity like partnerships or acquisition, one in 2 years. So these are all business metrics. So these translate into the goals. So the goals, in order to make these meet these metrics, the individual members team members need to have these goals. So the goals could be, generate 2 new ideas every year, at least conduct one market research for each idea. Then the pipeline of ideas should be worth of 100 crore, let's say. And then revenue from the completed ideas is of so and so crore. So this is very well-defined goals are required in order to change the behavior. So the next thing, this is less talked about generally. That's why I specifically wanted to touch upon this. How do we hire for innovation, right? So before we talk about that, let me differentiate between creativity and innovation. It's important to understand here, because we want to hire for both creativity and expertise, which will lead to the innovation, right? So creativity is the generation of ideas. So anybody who has ideas, if it's a novel idea, it is creativity. So innovation is about taking that creativity and making it successful, right? So in order to do innovation, you need a person, or you need people who have creativity, yes, but they also need to have expertise. These can be two different teams also, but generally organizations do not differentiate it that way, or so many of the organizations cannot afford to have two set of teams doing creativity and expertise. So specifically for innovation teams, the people who are hired need to have both. Now, all of us know, how do we hire for expertise? To hire for expertise, we evaluate through interviews, or generally for fresh starters, we can take technical tests and evaluate. So this is something that every organization does. But for creativity, to find, how do you find whether a person is creative or not? It cannot be gauged easily in an interview. So what we do is that we conduct a case study. So a case study, if I have to give you an example, let's say the case study could be, one of our actual case studies is that plastic pollution is a big problem for the world. And one of the issues with recycling plastic is to segregate plastics, right? So how do you solve this problem? So this is a very open kind of question. There can be several solutions to it, right? From what kind of marking is needed on the plastic, or how do you detect it? And there are so many approaches to solve it, socially, scientifically. So depending on what all different various thoughts a person has, and attempts that case study, we know whether the person is creative or not. So this is one of the methods that we deployed successfully in hiring for innovation, apart from our technical tests that we do. So how do we generate ideas? So I have 10 points here. The first 7 points here are about what are the sources of ideas. Once we identified the sources of ideas, then we can exploit those sources to get several ideas. The last 3 points are about, once you have an idea, what you need to do. So let me talk about the sources of ideas. So one source is an org level idea generation. So an idea generation drive can be rolled out for the entire organization. One of the mistakes that I've seen that is done here is that even at an org level, there is a theme provided for innovation. Now, what happens with a theme? A theme could be that give me ideas in healthcare, right? So a lot of people who have ideas in areas that we never, imagined or expected, those ideas get missed out when we're conducting an org level idea generation drive with a theme. So generally, a mass idea generation should be without a theme. Okay. But then we also need focused idea generation, which can be done at a small team level. So small group level idea generation can be with a theme, and give me ideas in agri-tech or fintech or something uh, uh, related to whatever is the latest trend that is going on, right? So, but we should limit it to small groups to have a theme. Next is market backed ideas. So we need to keep, continuously looking at where is the what are the trends in the market. For example, right now everybody knows the trend is AI ML. So if you have an idea around AI ML, then it is more likely accepted in the scenario right now because everybody knows and everybody wants to use it. And so that's one of the market backed ideas. Few years ago, it was data analytics, and IoT, 15 years ago. So there are certain themes that keep coming up, blockchain came in between. So all of these things. So we need to keep track and then also see how we can generate an idea around those themes where for which the world is ready. The next is government-backed ideas. This is very essential, specifically to the region where you're operating, right? If you have an idea which can solve a problem in your region, for example, for India, the government is saying that we need to improve farmers' income. So if you can set up a business model or a product, or an innovative product or a business model which helps you grow at the same time improves farmers' income, then it's a win-win. The government supports us, and this is what is called the government-backed ideas, because there is a certain agenda that each government has. And if the push from the government is to go towards EVs, you try to ideate in EVs. If the push is for renewable energies, you try to ideate in that direction. So such ideas will be very well supported by the government as well. The next is very important and also the easiest source of getting ideas. This is the customer generated ideas. So we have in ACE, we have several field engineers and sales professionals who meet customers day in and day out. Sometimes they give requirements where we have to say, no, we don't have a product which does that. And then that requirement gets lost. But now what we have started doing is that bring those requirements as well. And even if it's a product that we have not developed in the past, we look at it and see, can we develop it? If we do it, is it only for this customer or is there a bigger scope? And why the beauty of customer generated ideas is that in in ideation or in innovation, right, the most time consuming part is the ideation part. That is what to make, right? If somebody is telling you upfront what to make, that shortens your cycle time. So which is why I really love this one. Then of course, external innovators, we come across, this so and so university developed so and so technology. Many a times the technology never gets commercialized, but businesses like us need to come forward and work with the universities to commercialize those technologies. Again, this is one where we don't need to ideate. Somebody has ideated, developed something, but it needs to be brought to the world. The other one is also technology transfer from government. This is not an idea generation per se, but it is more of, again, a technology that is available by from the government, and they want to give it to the industry. But the technology maturity has to be taken care by the industry. So these are the 7 sources of ideas. Okay. The last 3, we need to make it simple for employees to log ideas. So there needs to be a web page or a tool. Then typically when we ask for ideas, let's say an engineer is generating an idea for you, most of a techie, they know, what is the idea, but then the business portion of it, the business case or business plan, market research, or something that they are not aware of, and that needs mentoring. So if we mentor the people who want to ideate and mature the ideas, then a lot of ideas can come forward. Last but not least, reward the ideas that we decide to pursue, even reward ideas as such, to encourage it. So, so the next one is about, how do we select the ideas? So I have a very simplified process map here. Once an idea is received, the first thing that we check is that does this idea align with our purpose? So we are an engineering company. So if it's for us, that alignment with purpose is that idea related to engineering. So if the idea, for example, at Ace Designers, if the idea is that let's sell insurance, it is not aligning with our purpose. Just an example. So that is a no there. Let's build a machine, let's build an electromechanical system, or any such related products, obviously aligns with our purpose. So if it does, then first thing we check is, see, we have to start with gut feel and then go into details, because there will be so many ideas that we cannot go into the details of everything. So firstly, gut feel is the investment possible. So for example, if you ask a small, if there's a small company and an idea is let's get into oil and gas industry, and if you need a corpus of 5,000 crore to even start, it's not financially feasible, and the idea can be straight away said, no, it is not for this company, it's probably for a bigger company to do. Then gut feel, technical feasibility, also not into details, but what do you feel about it? Okay, that's when, if both of these, gut feel is that yes, it can be done. Gut feel is actually very powerful and very underestimated. So if both of these answers are yes, then we do a market research, we prepare a business case. Now coming to business case, on the right hand side, I'm showing, what does the business case contain? So it's important to be organized this way, where in our process, a business case must for top line consists of, what is the problem, what is the solution, the potential customers and markets, benefits to customer, to us, revenue potential, competitive alternative, what is that differentiator in our products? Are there any similar ideas? Is it patentable? And what is the investment required? So this is like a summary business case for top line like new revenue generation ideas. For margin improvement, it slightly changes because we already have baseline metrics of where, what is the current scenario or where we are losing margin, and what is the expected metrics. And also once the idea is approved and we implement, we go on to close the project with updating what is the actual metrics and whether we really achieved that. This was a process that we were following, religiously in my previous organization, and the same I have also implemented here. So now after the business case, there needs to be a marketing approval. This is critical here. People who have to, understand the commercials and understand the market need to give a nod here. And if that's a yes, then check if there is, how much is the investment required, because earlier it was all gut feel. Now we have to put actual investment required, and do a detailed technical study. And that's when the organization decides whether to approve the idea. Once it's approved, design, prototype, and productionize. Okay. So to summarize, there are three stages. I mean, on the right hand side that I'm showing here, a lot of ideas need to be generated. 10% of the ideas are typically market researched, okay, which is based on the gut feel. And again, 1/10 of those ideas get pursued, because when you get into the details, many of the other ideas also um, uh, are not feasible, and only some of them are feasible. So again, these 1/10 of ideas also depending on for the implementation, it depends on the business case, the fund availability at that time, and the talent available for that. So lastly, how do we manage innovation? Okay. Now we have an idea. We spoke about, creativity and innovation. Innovation is a successful implementation. So even an innovation team needs to have a plan. It has to be systematic in nature. So strategy, it starts with strategy. Then we have to manage the idea, mentor the idea, mature the idea. Then we have to have a solid execution. So what I mean by strategy, I have two things. On the right hand side, we have a high level definition of what are the marketplaces that we want to enter, and that is typically not an exhaustive list for an organization, because you still want to be open as an organization to various areas in which the ideas will come. So here, for example, what we will do is home appliances or contract manufacturing, or we will enter into aerospace or fintech. It's not for one company. I'm just taking various examples here. But very important here is that what will we not do? I will not make a banking software and compete with an IT giant, or I will not make cosmetics. So that's, when we are clear about what we don't want to do, we also get the relevant ideas that we want. Okay. So market space is one. Also, what is the type of innovation that we want to pursue? It really depends all generally on the size of the organization. Okay. One is what I call as these are not standard terminologies, but I'm explaining in the way I understand. One is technology development, which is basically we develop a product on the basis of known principles. Uh, there is no invention of something which does not exist. Okay, but it's more of a new product. Sometimes it is not new to the world, but new to us. It is still an innovation for us. Okay, and we call it as technology development. The second one is business innovation, right? So collaborate with another company, partnerships, joint ventures, sometimes acquisitions, or a very different kind of innovative business model. So for example, I've said that technology development and business innovation we will actively pursue. But what I'm calling it as a scientific innovation, sometimes it's also I think officially called disruptive innovation, where an example that I've put here is that invent a new material which can make an aircraft lighter in weight. So for this, if I need 20 PhDs in material science, and if I know that I cannot get them right now, so we pursue them through university relations or through industry relations itself. So that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Giridhar.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Beautiful. So thank you, Mr. Prakash and Giridhar. Very beautifully curated flow of discussion, starting from the why and the what, and Giridhar completing on the how and the detailing of aspects, how we have implemented in ACE. So that is a great learning, a great case study for us to see as to, we talk about various aspects in terms of the innovation management principles, how you applied it, all the continuation, and looking for innovation in which stage of product life cycle, beautifully stated. And also you're talking about the value proposition, And again, and you talked about the metrics, goals, behavior, and culture, and how you're able to bring into applying it in the drive higher and the idea generation methodologies. And the examples that you have brought out are amazing, and we can relate to that. And also in terms of the beautifully brought out the business case of desirability, viability, and feasibility into the business model, and also sharing with the types of innovation. So really enjoyed both of your presentation, very well put together. Thank you very much for your presentation. So
thank you. Thanks a lot. Sorry for taking 20 minutes more.
It was very interesting. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, interestingly, as we are in touch with our innovation management principles, we are going for the next piece of representation by Mr. Gunnar Storfeldt. Sorry, I think Dr. Magnus is going first. I'm sorry. So we'll be starting with Dr. Magnus Karlsson for his presentation. A brief about Dr. Magnus Karlsson. He's an innovation advisor and a partner at Amplify. He has been working in the field of innovation for the past 3 decades and worked in various organizations such as Ericsson and Research Institute of Sweden, and has worked with Swedish Institute of Standards as an expert and chairman. He has contributed globally, being the advisor to Japan Innovation Network. I know he travels extensively to Japan and China and so forth. He's also a member of International Advisory Committee as part of the Tsinghua University in Beijing in China. He is an adjunct professor at the KTH Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm and is instrumental in the ISO standardization of innovation management. So I would like to welcome Dr. Magnus Karlsson. Today, he's going to talk about in the same space, in the innovation management space, to discuss the organization strategy from his perspective, how it is being done in organizations. Over to you, Dr. Magnus.
Thank you very much, Sreekanth, for that kind introduction. And I also want to thank your previous speaker, Prakash and Gadhar, for very inspiring presentations. I'm really impressed by the breadth and the depth of innovation management activities that are carried out in ACE Designer. It was great to hear those stories, and also to see that it resonates very well with the notion of an innovation management system. So, and that is really the topic of the presentations here in this CXO series on systematic innovation management. So let me just start by sharing some of my slides. I'm going to talk about the topic of crafting adaptable innovation strategies and approaches, and that resonates very well with the previous presenters. So I'm going to pick up a couple of threads that were introduced in those presentations. As Sreekanth mentioned in the very first introduction, he talked about ISO standards, and in particular ISO 56002 on innovation management system. And that standard was published in 2019. So that is the standard that we can now use, that is available for organizations to look at, and so on and so forth. That is a guidance standard, so it provides recommendations to organizations on how to build an innovation management system to improve innovation success. When we started out to create that standard, we asked ourselves, what are the key principles of this discipline that should be included in an innovation management system? And that's how we came up and developed within this international framework these 8 innovation management principles. And here is just another illustration. They were introduced by Prakash in the previous presentation, and this is all 8 of them. You can think of them as success factors for innovation management, and you can use them to look at your own organization and ask yourself, how well have we adapted these success factors in our organization, and where is it most urgent for us to improve. So that's how you can use these innovation management principles in a very practical way. So when we did this at the ISO level, we came up with some 40, 50 principles to start with. We boiled it down to 8 essential principles. And by now, they have been tested by many organizations, companies around the world. And we dare say that this is a good way of codifying the knowledge of innovation management that is out there and has been developed in the last 20 plus years. That really helps us to understand how can we prepare for innovation success. We've talked about a few of them. The realization of value is about having a focus on the implementation, the successful implementation pointed out by Prakash and Giridhar. That's exactly where we would like to go. It's not just about coming up with great ideas. It's about turning those ideas into value. Successful implementation is the key word. Leadership, strategy, and culture, the three coming ones, are really important to create the right environment in an organization for innovation to happen. We've talked about leadership and culture in the previous session. Today, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into strategic direction. Exploiting insights and managing uncertainty are really part of the innovation processes that were discussed in detail by Giridhar just now. And it's about understanding what customer needs, bringing out the ideas, testing the ideas to see whether they fit that need, and so on and so forth in that process where we are selecting ideas, evaluating ideas, and so on. Adaptability is a key principle that we're also coming back to discuss here today. So the focus for today's presentations is strategic direction and adaptability. Without those two principles, you are not likely to succeed. And we already heard about the essence or the criticality of having a strategic direction, an innovation strategy in place in ACE designers. And that's a really good starting point for the remarks that I'm going to make on strategic direction. So it's about having aligned and shared innovation objectives. And that's really to align the minds in an organization, but also get ready to commit the resources needed to carry through, to actually implement the ideas all the way to the market. So the strategic direction is really there to help doing that. Another key point for the strategic direction is to have a clear focus. And that was mentioned very clearly by Prakash and Giridhar as well. Strategic direction is as much about where to focus as it is where not to focus. So what is it that we're now putting to the side, not focusing on, so that we can put more force behind a few vital focus areas? That's why we need a strategic direction. In a moment, Gunnar will come back and talk about adaptability, because strategic direction without having the ability to adapt will be fatal. So the two of them will go together. Let me just make a few remarks on crafting innovation strategy. What is it? And how can you create an innovation strategy? And as you can see on this illustration, an innovation strategy is really at the heart of the organization when it comes to the renewal part. How do we renew an organization? An innovation strategy will give you the guide and the clue on how to do that. Without it, you will be trying to innovate everywhere, and the result very often is that you're going nowhere. Just to take a look at the different management levels that we typically see in an organization: strategic, tactical, and operational management levels. We will find an innovation strategy at the strategic level together with concepts like innovation intent and innovation policy. Then, moving down to the tactical level, the innovation strategy is then translated into innovation portfolios, maybe also different ways in terms of structuring your innovation activities. That's where the adaptability comes in, and we're coming back to that in a moment. That in turn then breaks down into different innovation projects or innovation initiatives, if you will, on the operational level. And it's all guided by the organization's overall strategy at the top of this building. So it's within, as Girinder put it, the purpose of the organization. However, I should also like to challenge the notion of always innovating within the purpose of the organization. Sometimes an innovation strategy actually can challenge the overall purpose of the, or the overall strategy of the organization. And that is how you can break out from, let's say, your traditional business and maybe move into new areas. So the role of an innovation strategy is also, if we wanted to challenge the strategic direction and the purpose that we have in our organization, so that we're able to break out of the traditional trajectory and maybe move into new areas. So just look at some aspects of an innovation strategy. First of all, we have a component called the vision value. And again, that was pointed out in the previous presentations. We have things like metrics, the goals. What is it that we want to achieve with our innovation activities? What kind of value do we need or do we seek? And how do we measure? How do we know if we get there? Frame opportunities is about selecting where do we innovate and where do we not innovate, so that we know that we are putting our resources in the areas that are really important for us as an organization. Shaping approaches is about trying to understand what type of innovations we're seeking, because if we're doing incremental innovation, it's different. It's a different way of doing that as opposed to radical or disruptive innovation. We need to apply different approaches. Again, adaptability comes in this part about shaping approaches. Finally, it's about the governance. How do we make decisions? What kind of decisions do we need to take? How do we involve top management and so on, so that we can secure that all the innovation initiatives doesn't stay as a good idea or a number of great ideas, but that they make it all the way to the market. Just want to give one example. Amplify was working with a shipping company called Wallenius Wilhelmsen a couple of years back. And at the time, they were facing some critical challenges in the market. They were facing environmental regulations. They had an issue with lack of qualified personnel and the increased cost of fuel for their shipping operations. And in this environment, the then CEO Inger Skaug said that we will shape the maritime industry through innovation. And we are now systemizing our efforts based on an innovation strategy with clear goals. So the core in his thinking about how to deal with the challenges was to center this around an innovation strategy and setting up clear goals for doing that. I'm not going to go through all the different components here, but one activity was then to start to create insights, to learn more about their customers. And one key customer segment for the shipping company was car manufacturers. They were shipping cars on these roll-on, roll-on, roll-off vessels. So one key activity for defining the strategy was to understand what are the challenges of our customer, in this case, the car manufacturers. So they then found out that these car manufacturers were seeking lower costs of logistics. They wanted to have shorter time to market. They want to decrease their tied up capital, and they want to focus more on the core activities rather than the logistics chain to get their products from the manufacturing plants to the customers in global markets. So these insights then led to a focus area, and that is in the middle of this visual here, called integrated logistics. So that meant that actually Wallenius Wilhelmsen extended their scope beyond shipping and assume the responsibility basically door to door from the manufacturing plant to the dealership, so that they could serve their customer, the car manufacturers, more on an end-to-end basis, not just the shipping part. So they extended that and offered an integrated logistics chain. That focus area is what we call an adjacent focus area, because as you can see here, it kind of extends the core of the company. The shipping, activities are the core of the company. So it sits there right in the middle and kind of extends that. So it moves into new areas that they were not familiar with, but it builds on the basic service of shipping. As you can see, there were two other focus areas that were also defined in the strategy work. Inside the core, they were focusing more on incremental innovation about optimizing fleet management. That was more a familiar area, so they could use more of familiar approaches to work within that focus area. But they also had one stretch focus area that was outside of core, environmental excellence, an area where they have not been working at all before. This was a completely new area for them. But their work, the insight work, before they decided on their innovation strategy, revealed that this is an area where someone in the industry could take a key position in the future because of the environmental regulations that were facing the industry. So all in all, as part of the strategy work, they defined three focus areas, distributed in relation to the core, the shipping core, as illustrated in this graph. Just to take just a quick look into that environmental excellence part, that was then divided into three areas: waste handling, water treatment, and clean energy. And Gunnar is going to elaborate a little bit on this focus area in the next section about adaptability. Just an interesting fun fact, as part of this project, a concept ship was designed that was completely wind propelled, so without any fossil fuel. And that was part of the thinking about a future when there is an issue with fossil fuels, the cost of fuels, and so on and so forth. And this was envisioned a number of years ago now. As a matter of fact, now this ship is being built, and they already have orders from many clients that would like to use this to ship their products globally, because it's a major selling argument that they actually can provide complete fossil-free transportation. Just a few more remarks on moving down to the tactical level. As we just talked about, Wallenius Wilhelmsen, they defined three focus areas. And it's quite common to look for focus areas that are distributed in your exploration portfolio across three horizons. So you have one portfolio that's focusing on core exploration, close to what you know. Adjacent exploration is really extending, adding things, adding new things, but you're still rooted in what you know, your current customers and your current ways of creating value. But then you can also venture out into the distant exploration and do things that are more unfamiliar. There might be new customers, new business models, and so on and so forth. And as part of your strategy, you need to think through what is the mix between core, adjacent, and distant exploration. This exploration portfolio is in turn part of a larger flow, the flow from exploration into development and into deployment. And deployment, that's what you offer to your customers, that is visible to your customers today. And there is a flow that you need to manage in terms of typically these three portfolios, and you transfer your projects or your ideas through these portfolios as indicated by numerous arrows here going back and forth. Important to notice here is one thing is that we are moving from in the exploration portfolio where we have a high degree of uncertainty. And as we are moving through to the deployment portfolio, we are decreasing the level of uncertainty. And the notion of value realization becomes clearer as we move in through these portfolios at tactical level. Let me just conclude with a final remark. If we're going to create a strategy that has these 4 key elements in it, we typically use a strategy development process that looks like this. And I already talked a little bit about how Wallenius Wilhelmsen, the shipping company, went through these different phases. The first step is about uncovering insights. What is it our customers want? What are the new technologies out there? So on and so forth. Then you define your opportunities, your focus areas. You move into set your objectives. And then you design the approach, the ways of working. You allocate resources. You plan what actions to take. And then you have your strategy. This is now depicted as a circle. And typically the strategy development circle or process is not something that you do once and then you're done. It's an iterative process. So typically you go through this multiple times. The first time you should go through it quite quickly. And the first time you do this based on the knowledge we know that we have. So basically the knowledge we have in the room. Then you can go through this cycle very quickly and you have your first draft of the strategy. In the second round, you start to build knowledge that we know that we don't have. So we know that we have gaps. We seek that knowledge and we put that into the strategy. So we will refine the strategy in the second round. In the third iteration, we will seek knowledge that will surprise us. We didn't know that we didn't have it. So that we gradually deepen our understanding of the strategic environment that we need to work and focus on. So by that, I'd like to hand over back to you, Sri, and for the final presentation by Gunnar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Magnus. Actually, there's one question here from Prakash. Can you please elaborate on securing governance that you talked about under critical strategic aspects? Would you like to take the question right now?
Let me do that very briefly. Governance is about leadership and organization. So it's about decision making. And decision making for innovation activities is actually slightly different from normal decision making. We have to base decisions on assumptions rather than on evidence because we are doing something new. So securing governance is to make sure that we have the right decision makers in place, that we know how to make those decisions so that we don't kill off promising opportunities too early. So that's the essence of securing governance, but there are also some other components to that. But let's come back to that if we have time later on in the presentation. Thank you very much. It's a very good question. And it's actually key to secure governance to be able to succeed.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Magnus. So I think, thank you for your bringing out one of the 8 principles beautifully well. And in terms of bringing out the customer empathy, focusing the opportunities based on the problem statements of understanding the customers better, and even extending the solution as required, and like your exploration portfolio perspectives to get into the adjacent market as well. Thank you very much. So finally, for today's discussion, we have Mr. Gunnar Storfeldt. Mr. Gunnar is an innovation management expert, a CEO and co-founder of Amplify. He's also the co-founder of the Association for Innovation Management Professionals in Sweden. He comes with extensive experience managing radical innovation initiatives in various sectors. In his illustrious career, he has had various roles, including the role of a vice president of global business development for Ericsson Microsoft mobile venture. I would like to invite Mr. Gunnar to share his thoughts on adaptability principle of the innovation management process. Over to you, Mr. Gunnar.
Thank you so much, Sri, and thank you all previous speakers. Having an, I think we now completely understand the importance of having an innovation strategy in place to be able to envision the value, having a strong purpose for what we do, framing our opportunities, creating a focus, and allocating the relevant and required resources, shaping the approaches, and finally securing the governance. So that is crucial for innovation success. We all know that by now. However, innovation endeavors are highly unpredictable. And we will be challenged with unforeseen, sometimes even unforgiving, or maybe even cruel events. And we have to adapt. We have to adapt to new circumstances, new situations. Plan A turns into Plan B, Plan C, Plan D, and so forth. And that's why we need the principle of adaptability to timely adapt structures, processes, competencies, and the models we use to the circumstances and the situations we are in, and to fit those structures to the opportunities that we are exploring and to the different types of innovation they represent, and not the other way around. It's very tempting to build structures and then fitting your opportunities into those. It's actually the opposite we need to strive for. And this is to optimize and maximize the innovation capability and performance over time. So we need to prepare ourselves for adapting to different degrees of unknown. And Magnus talked about everything from incremental innovations to maybe even disruptive, at least radical innovation, exploring the unknown unknowns. And those different degrees of unknowns will require us to adapt, of course, in terms of our planning, in terms of how we structure and set up our innovation initiatives, and how we execute them. So going back to the strategic plan, we understand that that needs to be quite flexible. And for each focus area of opportunity that we are pursuing, we need to look at the specific approach, the specific structures we need, the specific processes, the specific competencies and teams that we need to establish. So that might give us, as in the example of Wallenius Wilhelmsen, one setup for optimizing their fleet management, another completely different setup for the integrated logistics area, and a third one for the environmental excellence. So how do we decide what kind of setup we need for those different focus areas of opportunity? Well, it is a difficult question, and we have to apply an experimental approach to that and test different approaches, different structures for each one of them. But a simple framework that you can begin with is the following. Within a certain area of opportunity, we might ask ourselves, what must we borrow from the core business to succeed? For example, there might be crucial competences and capabilities that we are requiring to be successful. We maybe like to utilize essential systems or processes, or maybe, if not anything else, we probably would like to borrow some resources and funds. So any assets that we would like to bring with us into a certain focus area of opportunity and the exploration activities within that area. So that's the first question. And we can systematically make a list of what we need and require. The second question we have to ask ourselves is, what do we need to forget? There are certainly things within the core business and the business as usual that will hinder us, impeding things that we want to get rid of. So that might be bureaucratic procedures and policies, for example. It might be a not suitable present-focused leadership or governance, including metrics and goals and objectives and things like that, that will not help us. And finally, it could be about people's attitudes and behaviors. So anything we would like to leave behind to secure the success within a certain area of opportunity. And you can now start to realize that the answer to these questions will be different depending on what area of opportunity we are looking at. And the final question, the third question, would be, what do we need to learn? Where are the gaps? We might need in our setup, in our structures, in our governance, we might need a new type of decision-making. Magnus talked about that, decision-making under significant uncertainty, for example, more based on assumptions than facts. We might need to learn about rapid prototyping, testing, experimenting early and frequently. We might have to learn to collaborate internally and externally, maybe set up an ecosystem and so forth. So we systematically, we go through these three questions and we make lists, and this will then determine how we set up our structures. Or at least give us an indication. So let me give you a few examples. So if we then would like to borrow a lot of things from the core business, there's not much we need to forget, and moderate learning, then maybe it's better to integrate the innovation activities in the already established core business and its functions. And those innovation activities are actually reporting and being governed within existing structures. The benefits are that we are close to crucial resources and assets. The organization is actually doing the work and learning and can assume ownership. And the deployment of innovations might be not necessarily always easy, but maybe less challenging. What are the downsides? Fierce resource competition, of course, less operational freedom because we need to be within that core business and adapt to those strategies, policies, and so forth, and processes. The second example would be then there are less things we would like to borrow, quite a few things we need to forget, and we need to increase our learning. In that case, it might be a good idea to break loose the innovation activities into a separate function. What are the benefits of that? The pros are that you have more dedicated resources. You have maybe, hopefully, a direct line to top management that also must then be more involved specifically in your activities. And you have a decent operational freedom separated from the core business. However, you will be alien to the core business and the core organization. And deployment of new things, bringing back new things into the core business might be challenging. You might be faced with the not invented here syndrome and so forth. So these are the challenges. So every approach has its pros and cons. One example of that is a forestry company we worked with a few years back, Södra, who set up a specific division, Södra Innovation, headed by Katrin Gustafsson, Senior VP, Innovation and New Business Development. At the core of that company, forestry, taking care of our natural resources, making pulp from them, and making wood products, for example, building materials. That was the core business. Now exploring new focus areas of opportunity, biochemicals, bioenergy, and wood fiber for textile production and manufacturing. So completely new things, adjacent and a bit distant from what the company has been doing up until this first strategy was established in 2014, but organizing it in a separate division. So that's one example of that kind of setup. The final one is when the final setup, an example would be where we're not that dependent on the core. They don't actually have any assets or very few that we are dependent on. We need to forget a lot because there might be solely operational focused and we need to be more explorative. And there are a lot of new things we need to learn. So in this case, it might be a good idea to set up a separate unit with its own management, maybe with a dotted line to the core business management. But being able then, the pros would be to have certainly dedicated resources, its own leadership and governance, total freedom of operation. But of course, heavily being not close to the core and being distant. And you would then have significant deployment challenges when possibly, maybe, but not in every case, then bringing back innovations into the core business. Sometimes it might be a new business area or maybe even a new entity as a result of your innovation efforts. So let me give you one example of that, and going back to Wallenius Wilhelmsen and the environmental excellence focus area, which was such a focus area, completely new. You need to have certain knowledge about shipping and ships, of course, to be able to pursue opportunities within this area. But it's more about how do you create completely new environmental solutions within waste handling, within water treatment, and within clean energy. So let me give you one concrete example of that. A company that was set up as a complete separate initiative alongside the core business, reporting directly into the top management, but with its own leadership team. And the aim was to reduce the toxic NOx in the exhaust from ships with 95%, betting on an IMO international regulation of a reduction on 80%, which actually came in 2006, and this initiative was started in 2007. A quite big bet for them. It was set up as a joint venture, a collaborative initiative between Wilhelmsen and a Norwegian chemical company, Yara. And it was a dedicated innovation team from those two companies reporting to top management directly in both organizations. And actually, one of the CEO, the innovation coaches that we had been working with and developing over the years, then became the CEO of that specific separate entity. And let me now, that was in 2007, 2008 somewhere, it began. And now let's see where they stand today. So this is where the Yara Marine is today.
Yara Marine Technologies is a multicultural, dynamic, and entrepreneurial environment. We work across teams and offices in Norway, Sweden, and China, and some of our colleagues are working on board vessels in shipyards worldwide. Only 8 years ago, Yara Marine Technologies were a startup, but today we are one of the market leaders of exhaust gas cleaning technology in the maritime industry. We have formed our mission to provide technologies to enable a greener maritime industry so that we can leave the world in a better state than it is today. Our vision is a healthy planet for future generations.
I am Yara Marine.
Be part of the solution.
So this is one of the success stories from Wilhelmsen, and it has its origin in their innovation strategy. And I'm actually quite emotional when I see this, because I was part of setting that strategy and being part of facilitating the first innovation activities within this separate setup. Now, so you have to adapt. And you need to apply different structures depending on what you need. Of course, in a large organization, there are different needs, different focus areas, different initiatives, and you might have to adapt and even set up all of the above to cater for all your innovation management needs. It, of course, full spectrum, but then also becomes a bit complicated, confusing. So that's why you need to stick with a systems approach to keep track of that. You need to apply the 8 innovation management principles, your success factors, to be able to succeed. And I'll be quick now here because I'm running over time. If you want to read up on more good practices around applying the principles and setting up your innovation management system, this is a good read. You have several international examples that you can draw experiences from. And also, I would like to encourage you to take a look at a training program that Innomantra and Amplify are providing, an online training that will take you through everything that we have been talking about throughout the CXO Forum series of webinars, all the innovation management principles, and then diving into each one of them and looking at the innovation management system as a whole. So this training, if you're interested, it's made up of original videos, and interactive dialogues, a multimedia learning experience. Thank you, and sorry for taking and moving over time here. Back to you, Sri.
Thank you very much, Gunnar. I think is a beautiful final nail on the 4-part series of addressing the innovation management principles, and the way you brought out the how, detailing the how of the borrow, forget and learn methodology, and being able to bring out multiple use cases, and also sharing your real life experiences, the organizations that you worked on, and how they've been able to benefit from implementing these principles. So very beautiful. Thank you very much, Gunnar. So now we move on. If there are any questions, I know we are out of time, but if there are any questions, probably we can take 1 or 2, maybe 1, maybe. Anybody else has a question?
Can I come in, Mr. Sreekanth?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Both Mr. Magnus and Mr. Gunnar has touched upon interesting ones, and we really look forward to look at those 14 modules. And I think myself and Mr. Giri will think about these things, how to take it forward. And I have one question. One question probably on adaptability portion. I just wanted to know what kind of an organization structure you recommend for an innovative company or innovation. I think you touched upon that flexibility versus
right. So that's the key, Prakash. And as usual for a consultant, the answer is it depends.
Depends.
Yeah. And it depends how you answer the question, how close do you need to be to your core business to be able to get all the benefits from the core business? What do you need to actually distance yourselves from within the core business, because it will hinder your innovation activities? And finally, how much new things do you need to learn? So it's 3 very, very simple questions, but those will guide you in figuring out how to set it up. So in one case, it might be fully integrated into your core business, and the people involved in running the core business is also involved in running your innovation activities. Or it could be a completely separate setup, as in the case of environmental excellence for Wilhelmsen. I mean, taking that example, shipping things from harbor A to harbor B is extremely operational. So if you put innovation activities into those structures, you will certainly fail if you talk about radical things and starting a new business area like environmental solutions. So then you have to separate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for that clarification. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Gunnar. Thank you, Prakash. So I think we will close today's session. I think we have a few minutes past 5. So the CXO Forum of Systematic Innovation Management webinars were scheduled for the past 4 months on the second Wednesday of the month. We're going to take a break for the next month. We will not have a session in the month of August, but the next session will be in the month of September. So we look forward to regrouping our thoughts and coming back to the next set of next steps on this program. Right? So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you all. And
Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thanks a lot. Wonderful learning. Thank you very much.